Hi, everyone. Welcome to HR Technology 101. This is our first lecture of the term. And with this lecture, I'll be going over kind of the basics of HR technology. One of the things that you'll realize as we go through this class is that we're going to actually kind of take three different approaches to HR technology. This first approach during this first week is really just to go over what the most common HR technologies are and how they're currently being used in companies, and to talk about the HR technology market. Then the next 4 weeks, we will spend talking about HR systems and implementations, how that occurs. We'll talk about how systems are selected, how to do the cost and the needs analysis for a system implementation, and just training and kind of go over that process. And then the third part, we will actually be learning how to do basic workforce analytics using Tableau software. Tableau is a business intelligence software. Um, they were a very successful company independently, and they were just purchased by Salesforce. And it's a very innovative type of technology that really allows HR professionals to be able to make data-driven decisions. And we'll talk more about that in the next few weeks. And then, as part of kind of the ongoing, in addition to or in parallel with Tableau, we will talk about different aspects of HR technology and how it impacts the HR function today. So, we'll be talking about various types of technology, how it's currently being used, how it's emerging into um, the HR world, and how it continues to evolve. So let's get started talking about kind of the ABCs of HR technology. So first, I want to go over some common HR technology acronyms. These are all related to different HR systems, some of the more common HR systems, and systems that we'll talk about a little bit more as we go throughout the term. So the first is HRIS, which stands for Human Resources Information System. The HRIS is basically the employee data database application. It would be something like your Workday or Bamboo HR, namely Gusto, Paycor, Ultimate Pro. It is the main system for any HR department where the employee information is held, employee information regarding work information, personal information. A lot of times it will also house the benefits administration or benefits enrollments for employees, as well as as well as things like performance management. So we'll talk about how HRIS systems are built and how they tend to be tend to be composed of. The next acronym is ATS, which stands for the Applicant Tracking System, and this is the application that recruiters use when they are looking for, tracking, and interviewing and sourcing candidates for a company. ATS is also a very common HR system that most companies will have. They are available, independent of HRIS or as part of an HRIS, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. SaaS, software as a service. I thought it was important to include this acronym just because most HR technologies now, including um, everything from our HRIS to ATS systems, are built on software as a service models, which basically means companies no longer purchase a disk and install it on their computers to have these different applications. The software as a service is most companies purchase these applications that are web based, and they're paying for them on a monthly basis based on the number of employees they have. And so what the company is actually paying for is the software itself, but they're being they're being charged based on the usage of that software. Uh, LMS is a learning management system similar to our e-learning system Moodle that we use at GGU. LMS is also another common HR system or application that's utilized by HR. ONA apps are organizational network analysis software, and we will talk more in depth later on in this term about organizational network analysis and what that actually is. So, common HR technology related terms. These are some of the most common terms that you'll hear when talking about when we're discussing HR technology. Um, is enterprise software is the first. Enterprise software, um, I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but it's basically any software that's designed for large organizations. And by large, I mean generally anything, enterprise can be anything from 5,000 or more, or even sometimes considered 10,000 or more employees companies. Integrated versus standalone. A lot of HRIS systems can be either integrated, in which they have different components or modules, which is the next term, or they can be standalone products. Modules are basically the different functionality in a system. So, for instance, an HRIS can uh, have a payroll applicant tracking system and benefits administration functionality built into them. So, what those different components are called are modules. So, let's talk about the HR technology market. It's classified as any software that automates part or parts of the human resources function. And, the current HR technology market is valued at $400 billion. And this is really astonishing because just 10 years ago, HR was really regulated to only having a few, you know, systems or application tools or categories in that, primarily it was either HRIS systems or applicant tracking systems, and that was pretty much it. But, as technology has accelerated and use has accelerated and it's become more advanced in what it can do, HR has benefited from the advancements in technology because now some of the biggest names in HR, excuse me, some of the biggest names in technology are entering into the HR technology market, including Google with their G Suite um, G Suite product, which is basically, allowing the entire business to function based on one platform. Microsoft has entered the HRIS market with Dynamics 365, which can be used as a HRIS for companies. Facebook has Workplace, Salesforce has Tableau, and LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning is sort of like a LMS um, that is run directly by LinkedIn for organizations. So let's talk about the HR technology categories. There are 12 different categories of that are defined by the market, which are core HR and payroll, which again would include things like the HRIS, compensation, benefits, and rewards. So again, there are standalone applications for that just manage the benefits administration and or just manage the compensation functionality. Workforce management is a little bit more difficult to define in terms of it can be everything from the organizational analysis technology or anything as simple as like record keeping or timekeeping and recording. Integrated talent management, again, that is related to recruiting, sourcing, um, tracking candidates from the interviewing to the hiring phase. Talent acquisition is also, again, another word for recruiting, and it includes any kind of type of technology that is related to that process. Performance management, again, this is another area where there's been a huge amount of growth recently in the HR technology market. There are just a ton of independent or standalone performance management applications now. Corporate learning or LMS systems as defined, again, talk really about any system that is used to help track training and the learning skills and development of employees. Well-being management or wellness programs, wellness applications have become, again, that's another area of large growth within the HR technology market as more companies try to help employees manage their work-life balance and just their overall well-being. Engagement and culture, that includes various applications, including things like employee surveys to gauge, employee engagement, to understand the culture of the company. So that's also a very broad segment of the HR technology market. And there's diversity, inclusion, and transparency. Again, there have been a lot of recent developments in this area, but ever expanding kind of market of products for that just focus on tracking and um, ensuring and improving diversity and inclusion. And analytics and planning. So Tableau software falls into the realm of analytics and planning in that, again, these are software applications that allow human resources to really focus on the planning of the organization, whether it's reorganization through a reorganization, mergers and acquisitions, and also, again, being able to do workplace analytics to really understand what's going on in the company. And then the final category is workplace productivity, which is a newer segment of the HR technology market. And basically, it includes any software application that's used to monitor the overall employee productivity of a company. So, what exactly is an HRIS? The HRIS is the official database for employee data, as I mentioned before. Different HR systems have different modules. It really depends on the size of your company and what you require in terms of what modules a company or what system a HRIS a company might purchase. At a minimum, every HRIS maintains an employee record with the job and personal information on employees. So that's kind of the basic component of every HRIS system, whether it includes payroll or an applicant tracking system or benefits administration, or if it's just a HRIS database. The base element of any system is really just a record of the employee job and personal information. So again, modules can be anything from payroll, benefits administration, time, attendance tracking, applicant tracking, etc. And not all HRIS systems have the same modules, and vendors offer these modules in different combinations. So if you have a system like Workday, you can purchase the applicant tracking system separate from the HRIS system. Or a lot of times what happens is, a company will purchase the HRIS system and then they'll add on the performance management or the payroll. And then there are systems such as ADP that actually sells its product, you know, as a combination, as an integrated platform where they have the payroll, the benefits administration, and the HRIS. It's all, one system. And so again, pricing has a lot to do with what modules a company chooses to use and which system and how it's configured, with, in terms of how much they'll actually spend. And even though I don't mention or talk too much about the pricing of systems, I'll mention that, the pricing is so varied because varies so much because the market is so large in terms of what's offered right now. So you can have a system that's like a Bamboo HRIS. Bamboo HR is an HRIS product, and it comes with the basics of HRIS, um, applicant tracking, and the payroll component is separate. The performance management module is separate to the product itself. But that is a product that is focused on the small to medium sized businesses, anywhere from 20 plus employees, up to, they stay around up to the 1,000 employee or less segment. Um, and the cost for that particular HRIS system can be anywhere from $6 to $8 an employee based on how it's configured. So it could be $6 to $8 per employee per month. Whereas then you on the far other side of that, you have a system like Workday, which is solely focused on large enterprise customers. They do have a mid-sized product now, for companies that are 500 plus employees, but they are largely focused on the enterprise market for, you know, companies that have tens of thousands of employees. And the cost of those systems can start at $1 million and just go up from there. So it really just varies based on the configuration of the system itself. So let's talk about the anatomy of an HRIS. So this is assuming that we're talking about an HRIS system that is completely integrated and has all of these different modules, um, built into the product. So employee records basically maintains and tracks the employee's job and personal data. Job title, manager, department, um, employee address and telephone number. The benefits administration allows employees to enroll in the company benefit programs. And so it basically not only does the enrollment process, but it tracks and maintains the benefits of various employees as well. Payroll, of course, generates the employee paycheck, direct deposit um, for the organization. And sometimes, depending if it's a multinational organization where they might have employees in different countries, they might actually have, various payroll systems based on the number of countries and where they're located. Performance management, again, this could also be built in or be a standalone product, allows managers and employees to track the employee performance. Applicant tracking system allows candidates to apply for jobs and recruiters to review candidates and track that process again from interview to hire. And then mobile applications are very common with today's HRIS systems because they allow both employees and managers to access um, HR data, including requesting leaves or absences, making changes to their address, or managers can approve leave of absences or track time and attendance using their mobile devices. Most HRIS systems come with an employee and a manager self-service portal where employees log in to make changes to their data themselves. So if HRIS doesn't offer certain modules or the module doesn't meet the company's needs, they may purchase standalone applications. So again, there's no one product fits all or one size fits all when it comes to HR technology or HRIS systems. It really depends on the needs of the company. Some common standalone applications, HR applications include performance management with products such as Lattice, Zugata, applicant tracking systems such as iCIMS or Taleo and Greenhouse. Payroll, Square Payroll, Intuit Payroll are all standalone products. Employee engagement applications can include things like Amplify or Motivosity, and benefits administration um, products include Benefit Focus, Ben Select, etc. One of the things that I really want to enforce and make sure students understand is that the HR technology market is so large right now. We could spend the entire term just talking about the 12 different categories and the products in them. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of vendors just in the US, even globally more so, that focus or only do HR or only create HR technology. So it's the market itself is very large. The vendors are very large, and the product offerings are just massive. Um, n- Again, so the HRIS market, as I just mentioned, there's literally hundreds of HRIS applications available, and that means just the HRIS applications. There are literally hundreds of products. to choose from. HRIS vendors market to customers based on the company's size and or industry. So there are HRIS systems that are specific to healthcare. There are HRIS systems that are designed specifically for construction or other specialized industries. Enterprise vendors focus on companies with 2,000 employees, or that could be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 or more employees. Vendors like Bamboo HR focus on SMBs or small to medium sized companies with 1,000 or less employees. The majority of HRIS products are now web based or cloud based, and today HRIS products come with an endless variety of functionality. Again, this really goes back to what are the business processes of the HR department? How do they operate? How do they track and maintain or do their data HR administration? That is going to really determine what product the company will choose to purchase for their HR systems. Very few HRIS vendors that cater to SMB offer workforce analytics with their products. So what that basically means is, and one of the reasons why I think it's important to focus on understanding and learning workforce analytics is because it's um, one of the most recommended or even sought after skill sets by employers now. All employers want their HR departments to be able to do some level of workforce analytics. And so, one of the reasons why it's very important, again, is because most HRIS systems that are targeted to these companies that with 1,000 or employees less, or even 2,000 or less employees, they don't have built-in analytics functionality. Products such as Workday, ADP, Oracle, um, SAP, they do have built-in analytics functionality. It's not always very robust or very advanced, but there tends to be some level of analytics built into those products. So, some popular HRIS vendors, again, enterprise companies or enterprise size focusing on companies with 2,000 or more employees would be Workday, one of the few HRIS systems that was built from the ground up to be an HRIS. So one of the very interesting things about HRIS systems in general in terms of their history is a lot of them started out as payroll systems. Payroll systems have actually been around for decades longer than HRIS systems have been around. So companies like ADP, um, Paylocity, Paychex, they all started out as payroll companies that got into the HR market and then built. So they either built or acquired the HR um, software or part of their software after the fact. Workday is one of the very few products that was literally built from the ground up um, at the enterprise level to be HR focused. And that's because the two founders of Workday are also the two founders of one of the first really innovative HRIS products, which was PeopleSoft, which was bought by Oracle. So their focus is definitely more HR centered in terms of how their product works. ADP, again, began as a payroll software. SuccessFactors, Oracle HRMS, Oracle PeopleSoft, Ultimate Software, these are all vendors that really focus on the enterprise market. The small to medium size companies or less than 2,000 employees, these vendors tend to be companies like Bamboo HR, namely Gusto, which actually started off as a SMB payroll product, which then later, a few years later, developed the HR part of their software. Zoomin, which started off as a benefits administration software and then integrated or developed the HR portion. Paylocity and Paychex, as I mentioned, were both started off as payroll companies. So now let's talk about applicant tracking systems and the role of the ATS. Besides the HRIS, the ATS is the second most prominent HR technology used. So if a company has a HRIS, more than likely they will also have an applicant tracking system, whether it's integrated into the HRIS or it's a standalone product. Every time you apply to a job online, your resume is going into an ATS. So, with the exception of filling out, excuse me, a paper application, which, you know, very few people or very few companies utilize anymore, every single time you submit your information online to apply for a job, it's going into some type of applicant tracking system. And applicant tracking systems consist of searchable database of job applicants. Most allow recruiters, hiring managers, and interviewers to screen, track interviews, and rate candidates. More advanced systems will will actually track and provide analytics on the recruiting functions such as time to hire, hires compared to the plan, etc. So more advanced applicant tracking systems they will have some basic analytics kind of built in to their systems. The applicant tracking market is similar to the HR market, where there's both standalone and integrated products, and it's almost overbloated with the number of applications that it has. So enterprise level standalone um, applicant tracking systems include iCIMS, Taleo, JobVite. So these are products that you buy simply just to do the ATS, just to do the applicant tracking. Small to medium-sized business level standalone applicant tracking applications include Greenhouse, Jazz HR, and Workable. And these are all cloud-based systems. The anatomy of an applicant tracking system. So candidates can apply online at the company's website or through a job board such as LinkedIn or Indeed. Candidates will often upload their resumes along with the electronic application that they're asked to fill out. The data is received and stored in the applicant tracking system, and it can again be a module of an HRIS or standalone product. Once received, recruiters, hiring managers, and interviewers can see the candidate's profile and or their resume. So if, for instance, if a company is hiring for a project manager, the you know, the applicant tracking system will gather all of these applicants, and they'll be housed in a database. And a recruiter can then go in and say, we need somebody who knows Six Sigma, um, project management, and look for specific skills within the applicant tracking system to um, narrow down the list of candidates or that they want to interview or talk to. The applicant tracking then tracks all of the candidate's activities. It will track whether the candidate had a phone interview, had an in-person interview, and even if the candidate was hired. The offer details and approvals can also be stored here. So some applicant tracking systems, they start from the application process up into, they include the functionality to create an offer letter for a candidate, have it approved, and have it sent out through the applicant tracking system. And again, that functionality just really varies based on the product. So let's talk about software as a service and the HRIS. SaaS is a licensing and delivery model that allows vendors to charge a subscription, again, at cost per user per month price, while the vendor is responsible for hosting the application. So Bamboo HR, as I mentioned, can charge as little as $6 per employee per month for its software. Hosted applications are maintained, updated, etc. by the vendor. So a lot of times, or the newest model with the cloud-based and web-based systems is your database, if you have Bamboo HR, is housed within Bamboo's servers. Whereas, 5 to 10 years ago, it used to be the case where before cloud-based applications became the norm, you would buy the software, you would buy the disk or the floppy disk or the CD disk, the company would install it on their servers and IT would maintain it. The really big kind of revolutionary thing about SaaS and moving HR technology into the cloud is that now HR departments are mainly responsible for the maintenance, upkeep, and really allows them to have a better control over HR technology. Whereas, again, back in the day when before we had a web and cloud-based technology, the IT department was largely responsible for maintaining HR technology because they were responsible for maintaining all of the company's applications and systems. So anyway, the model has made the HRIS and other HR technology more affordable as well for any company. Um, Once a company hits a federal uh, threshold, or I mean, a federal compliance threshold of 15 or 20 employees, based on anything from FMLA to EEO, um, or affirmative action planning, it really becomes the important for a company to, at that point in time, obtain an HRIS. But I mean, I have worked with companies that have as few as 10 to 15 employees that have an HRIS system. So because of the SaaS model, because companies host the actual product and it's available to their customers online, it's made it a lot more affordable for any company, regardless of size, to be able to afford to get an HR system, HRIS, or any other type of HR technology. The majority of HRIS are hosted applications that reside in the cloud. So again, I just kind of explained, this just basically means that Bamboo maintains the server where your data or your employee databases are housed. Workday maintains the databases and servers for the company versus the company having it on site. So let's talk about learning management systems. They're basically used to manage a company's training programs, and they usually manage everything from interactive training videos, vendor or outside training classes. So you can have a learning management system in-house, and um, it might contain training that the company has put together or someone in the company has put together, or you can also purchase different training applications. So sexual harassment training, a lot of companies purchase that from outside vendors, but it may be housed within your learning management system, or it may be just used to track that. It tracks, most LMS systems track employee learning, so it keeps track of when people have had their sexual harassment or other compliance training, when they've had their security clearances. It can track things like that. It can also, track things like skill-based training, such as, presentation or PowerPoint skills. If an employee has taken a class or training in that area, the LMS will track that. It also can track employee and certifications. And like all other HR technology now, learning management systems, the functionality of it varies so much, because it really just depends on what the company needs, what they're looking for. If it's standalone, there are standalone products out there, but there's also HRIS systems that have the learning management system integrated, or it's part of their core product, where like ADP, they have an integrated learning management system where basically, again, you can just track all of these different trainings and things that employees have done. Popular LMS applications include Adobe Captive Prime, and these are standalone applications outside of a HRIS. SAP Litmus, Learn Upon, Inquisit, iSpring Learning, and I'd probably add LinkedIn Learning as another popular LMS application. LinkedIn recently purchased a company called Angela.com, which had 80,000 or more different training components. And LinkedIn has purchased that company, and now they offer that to companies as part of, as a separate package, separate from their LinkedIn um, subscriptions, where you can do all of these things, track learning. Employees can take the learning, can do the training online on their own time. They can download it. It just has amazing functionality. But LinkedIn is a more recent kind of company that's joined the learning management system market, but it's also a really great product. So, in conclusion, the HR technology market is vast. It includes not only the systems that we've talked about, the LMS, but there are the performance management. There's so many different variations of products that, again, we could spend the entire term just talking about the various ways that products are configured or come configured or can be configured. And so hopefully this gave you a little bit of a taste of what the HR technology market includes and how it's being the current focus of it today. And hopefully you learned something more about HR technology, and we'll continue to expand on that throughout the term. Thank you.